Hi, my name's Ztarli, and in this video I'll be customizing my MerMay template using a Biolumin Dragon from the game Day of Dragons as inspiration. The starting point of this video is a template I made for MerMay. If you'd like to see how I got to this point, you can find the link to that video above. I decided to use the soon-to-be released Biolumin Dragon as inspiration for this mermaid. As with a lot of dragons from Day of Dragons, it actually lends itself very well to the mermaid form. So I find because the Biolumin has these fin shapes along its tail, you can quite easily make it look like a fin of a fish or a mermaid or merman. I also decided to add its wings as these extra fins to the body of the mermaid, just as a little extra detail to the mermaid itself. If you'd like to have a go at customizing one of these templates yourself, the link to them will be in the description below. They're also on my Discord and my DeviantArt. I also have the Biolumin and Acid Spitter Drake inspired mermaids line art saved as well, so if you would like to just use one of those as a template, then let me know and I can send you the file for that. Customizing the template's a fairly simple process. Basically, I sketch the extra parts on a separate layer, and then I create a third layer in which I draw the new line art on top of. So at the moment, this line art's being drawn on a separate layer to the original template and the sketch layer. Once I'm happy with the additional line art I've created, then I delete the sketch layer and I go back to the original template layer and I erase any unnecessary lines or any overlapping lines that shouldn't be there. Then I recombine the two layers back together, so I end up with the one line art of my customized drawing. Once I'm done with the line art, I move on to colouring. I'm just going to use a quick gradient to put down a background here so I can integrate the colours from the start. I am going to use my new way of doing flat colouring, which is much quicker. The first step to this is making sure there's no gaps in the outer line of your line art, as I will be using the wand select tool in the top right to select the outside area of the picture. This works particularly well if you don't have any line art crossing reaching right to the edge of your border. You simply select the area, then you use the select tool here to change the area in which you've selected. I make it one extra, and then I change it, I invert it, and I use a new layer and use the fill tool to fill in that area. Now the reason I changed the amount, the area I had selected by one, is because if you just select it and then invert it and use the paint tool, you'll find that some of the color, a very small amount of the color, has made it right up to the edge of the line art. And if you have any parts of the line art which aren't 100% solid, you'll end up with this very sharp edge. So I don't actually want my flat color to be right up to the edge, the outer edge of my line art. I want it to be stepped back a tiny bit. That's why I moved the selection by one, so it's just 1 pixel stepped back from the edge of the line art, and you won't have this very sharp edge of color at the very edge of your line art, and it's a much better way of selecting your area for doing the flat colors. Now that I've done the flat colors, I'm now moving on to adding some subtle colors on top. I've decided to add some blush because I love adding blush to things, and I'm just using a very fuzzy brush to do so. For the shading of this dragon, I actually start with a highlight layer, which is unusual for me. Normally I do shadow, but I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to have a shadow layer or not because it's such a light colored creature. But yeah, I basically just put some light color down on a separate layer, and then I change the properties of that layer, and I use the smudge tool to blur it in a bit. I do actually end up using a shade layer as well, so you'll see me do a similar thing with the shade layer. I create a new layer, I put some color down, and then I adjust that layer. I actually lock the layer and recolor where the shadow crosses on the white because I thought the color I'd decided on for the body of the mer person didn't match the shadow that would be on the color of the bubbly yellow parts. I thought it made it look a bit dirty, so I lock the layer and I use an orangey color for the shadow instead. So I have two separate colors for the two parts of the body, and I just mix in a little bit of the orange into parts of the shadow of the body as well, so that it doesn't look too out of place. And then merge them all together, and I use the smudge tool to soften some of these edges where the shadow wouldn't be so harsh. Most of you probably already picked up on this, but I have decided to go with a white Biolumin. Some of you might think this is a bit of a cop-out since I don't actually have to do all the black stripes that are all over this by this dragon design, but I have actually drawn the iconic Biolumin like, I don't know, 20 times recently, since I have been doing some Discord stickers for the official Day of Dragons Discord, and I drew each of those frames and colored each of those frames individually, and they have lots and lots of lines on them, so I had to do all of the head bobble things and all the the stripe that goes around the eye and down the nose and the dots in the eye, and I drew them all individually, so every time I had to pay attention to what the previous frame had and redraw it to make sure that when it moves it doesn't look like it's a completely new spot, that it's the same spot just moving positions. So I feel me deciding to do the white one instead of the iconic one is okay, because I've already drawn the iconic one like a lot, so yeah. And anyway, I actually super like the white version of this dragon. I think it looks really sweet, and I like how it makes, I don't know, makes the glowy parts more subtle. Like, it's got white glow spots on its white body and you can barely see them, and I kind of like that. As per usual, I have also decided to use colored lines, so I've done that just by locking the line art layer, choosing different colors and coloring over the parts of the picture I wanted to have different colors. I also decided to remove this line that was originally supposed to be the different colored belly of the mermaid, but because I've gone with white and it doesn't have one, I just erased those lines away. After fixing up some of the line art, I decide to soften it a bit. I do this by duplicating the line art, blurring one of the layers and setting them both to multiply. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but I'd like to point out that this only really works if you have a background. If you don't have a background, if you save the image, you'll find that the color on the outside of the line art will actually revert back to its original color and will make it look like almost as if the line art has a glow to it. So if that's not the effect you're after, then this might not be the best option for softening your line art. Speaking of glow, it's now time to add some glow to my little mer person. I really liked adding these super bright white glow dots, and you'll see now why at the start of the video I didn't choose white as my base color for the white dragon, as if I'd done so you wouldn't be able to see the glowing spots on the dragon. You can see even here the light spot on that fin is barely visible. For the rest of the glowing parts, I just used a very blurry brush and created some color around them. I then finished up the background using a custom brush for the bubbles and a custom smudge tool for the background itself. I then decide to integrate these glowing parts a bit more into the background and use my custom smudge tool to smudge them in a little bit more as well. So they look like they're more like the glow is more like affecting the water around it rather than just making this big halo of glow. And now the picture is pretty much done. Here it is, my finished mer person. I really like how this came out. I think it's really cute and I like the color scheme I ended up using. Well, thanks everybody for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more, and I also have a Patreon if you'd like to support me. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!